Hey guys, Dylan Allen from Allen Endurance Coaching. Today we're talking about what the purpose of a workout is. So today we're talking about the difference between training and exercising. Um, so training is fundamentally is exercise with purpose. We're not just putting our shoes on and going for a run or a ride or a swim or whatever. Each workout has a specific purpose. We're trying to stress our body in some way. We're going to stimulate our body to have some kind of physiological response so we get to be better at whatever it is we're trying to do. And fundamentally, that's what training is. So it is important, before we get going, I will say it is important to make sure you just exercise, just go have fun, and just go run, swim, whatever you do every now and again. Because that keeps you mentally sane and it helps you remember why we do what we do, which is to have fun, right? Training is when we're trying to get faster or better or be able to go longer or whatever. And this is what we actually spend a good chunk of our time doing. So there are four key elements of any workout. One is the volume. How much total work are you going to be doing over the course of the workout? And this is important, especially for endurance athletes, because the more volume we're putting in, the more we're stressing our body's ability to keep going, which fundamentally is normally the limiting factor for us to get to be better at what we do. That's why miles matter. The second one is pace. A lot of times, some of our workouts that we do, they're targeted to be run at a specific pace, whether it's marathon pace or half marathon pace or 5K race pace or whatever. But we're trying to hit a specific pace on things, right? And part of that sometimes is because it's easier to break up a workout into timed chunks, right? Or we're trying to hit a specific distance in a specific amount of time instead of like trying to track our heart rate through it, whatever. But that heart rate or intensity is the third variable. And a lot of times heart rate and or your intensity and your pace are tied, right? They're linked together. The faster your pace is, typically, the harder your effort level is, and typically, the harder you're working, the faster you're moving. It's not always the case, but generally speaking, that's how it works, right? Like you're demanding more oxygen in your muscles, so your heart has to work harder. But it varies depending on the surface you're on, right? So if we're running and we're on grass and it rained last night, you're going to have to work a lot harder to run the same pace than if you were on a nice all-weather track, right? If it's hot, your heart rate's going to be a lot higher for a given intensity level. The intensity level is going to be higher at a given pace than if it's cooler, right? That's the way it works. We all know this, right? But it's worth thinking about for a second because we sometimes forget that. We get tied up watching our watch. And we're like, oh man, I'm running slow today. Or, oh man, I'm burning it up today. But we're not actually thinking about how hard we're actually working, which is here, right? It's the amount of work we're doing. And you can use relative perceived effort, scale of 1 to 10 or 1 to 20 or whatever. You can use the talk test. You can use your heart rate. I mean, there's lots of ways to conceptualize that intensity. And depending on what you're trying to do, the method that works best for you is going to vary. But intensity is different than pace. And both of those are different than speed. So speed, in terms of like neuromuscular fitness and speed, is the rate at which your body is moving in relation to itself, as opposed to the rate at which you're covering ground, which is your pace. Excuse me. Because if we're talking about how fast we're moving through a range of motion, that's a lot different. That's a completely different metric that we're looking at as opposed to how fast we're covering ground. Because I can cover ground with a long loopy stride with a long turnover rate. I can also cover ground at varying speeds by varying what my turnover rate is, right? So those are 4 key variables, and they all, tinkering with those 4 variables allows us to get different physiological stimuli. And there's a whole host of things you can target. You can target your muscular endurance, you can target your cardiovascular endurance and metabolic endurance, your speed, your turnover rate, you can target your VO2 max, you can target your ability to buffer your blood pH, you can target your ability to stay coordinated, there's all kinds of things you can stress. And we're not getting into that today, but that'll be another video for down the road. But just be aware that there's kind of 4 key variables that go into any workout. You got volume, you got pace, you have intensity, and you have like neuromuscular speed, like the biomechanical speed. Thing to keep in mind though is any given workout, we're trying to get 1 or more specific adaptations out of it, right? If we're doing speed work on the track and we're doing 200s and 400s or even 600s and 1K 1 mile repeats, the purpose of that workout is different than a 2-hour long run at marathon pace, right? If we're that long run, we're stressing our body's ability to keep producing energy using fat as a primary fuel source. Because if you're running a marathon, if you're burning too hot, you're going to hit the wall, right? And if you do finish, you're going to finish in a lot slower time than if you weren't burning so hot and that intensity level was lower, even if you were moving at a slower pace on the first part of the race, right? So the shorter interval stuff, a lot of times for us endurance athletes, is really geared towards the neuromuscular fitness, being able to stay coordinated. And so what that means is what we're actually stressing is the ability of our brain to tell our body how to move through space. And so what we need to make sure we're moving fast enough with good enough mechanics. We're not just pushing per se and working hard, but we're moving fast, right? Which is why I want to make that distinction between biomechanical speed and pace and effort. Those are all different things. The 3 big mistakes I see from most endurance athletes when they're doing workouts in the training block is they're not getting enough of a warm-up. And so especially if it's a day where we're working fast, like we're trying to move fast, we're trying to push hard, you need to make sure you get enough of a warm-up in that your tissues are warm enough to move through the whole range of motion, and 2, that you can actually move fast enough and hard enough to stress the body's ability to do it. Because if you just put shoes on and go, you're not going to be able to actually generate enough oomph. You're not going to be able to move fast enough through the range of motion with a big enough range of motion to actually stress your nervous system's ability to stay coordinated and recruit more muscle fibers and all that kind of stuff and get the maximal strength output that you're looking for with those faster workouts, right? So yeah, not enough of a warm-up. It's going to result in you not really getting anything out of those first couple reps if you're doing an interval workout, or the first couple miles if you're trying to do like a threshold, like a sustained threshold run or a steady state run. And so what that means is the volume of your work that's actually pushing to make you better is actually smaller than you think it is. You'll be better off by getting more of a workout in, more of a warm-up out of it, and then just doing the same amount of quality work, because you'll get the same amount of stimulus, but you'll have a lower injury risk because you won't be trying to work really hard on a body that's not warm. So, and the converse of that, not getting enough of a cool down in is true as well. I see a lot of folks, they get done with a hard workout and they're just like, all right, I'm out. Later, guys. I got to be somewhere. And they skip a large chunk of their cool down. And I'm guilty of it too sometimes. Sometimes you're trying to squeeze it in and we end up cutting our cool down a little bit. But it's not good because that cool down is important to help set you up to do well the next day. The second thing, not enough rest. And this is true between workouts and between intervals if you're doing some interval training. Because if you're not getting enough rest between workouts, you're not going to be recovered enough for the next workout to actually give it 100%. And if you can't work hard enough, you're not going to be able to stress your body's ability to do it. So you're not going to actually be getting your body to go, oh crap, I need to like rebuild this so it works better, which is the goal of training, right? So I got to be able to work hard enough in a workout to get something out of it. And if you're not recovering, then you're not going to get anything out of it. And within the workout, if you're doing, intervals on the track or the pool or the bike, or you're even in the middle of a long run doing some threshold intervals, pushing that lactate threshold a little bit, for 5 or 10 or 15 minutes at a time in the middle of that long run. If you're not getting enough rest between intervals, you're not going to be able to work hard enough to get anything out of the tail end of the workout. And depending on what the purpose of the workout is, the thing you're going to be shorting yourself on is going to vary, right? If you're trying to work really fast, right, you're doing 200, 400 meter repeats, and you're really working on that turnover rate and that maximal speed and that power output, being able to stay coordinated at top speed, when your nervous system is like, oh man, like stuff's starting to not work and you're starting to get the Tin Man. If you're not getting enough rest between reps, you're not going to be, like, your cardiovascularly won't be recovered enough to be able to work hard enough that becomes an issue. And so if you're trying to stress that neuromuscular fitness, which takes running at 95 to 100% effort level, but you can only move at the speed that would normally be associated with like 80 or 85% effort level, you're not going to be, your central nervous system isn't going to have to work harder to stay coordinated. I mean, yeah, you're going to be locked up in acidosis and you're going to be miserable and you're going to feel like you're working hard, but you're probably not going to be improving in terms of biomechanical efficiency. That being said, if what you are trying to stress is your ability to buffer your blood pH so you don't have to deal with acidosis as much during the race, or you're working on pushing that VO2 max, you need to make sure that you're getting enough rest to keep the heart rate at the right level for as long as possible over the course of the workout without going over it. Because if we're going over it, then we're changing the energy supply side of stuff, and so you end up working anaerobically instead of aerobically, and you're not getting the metabolic adaptations that you're looking for, right? I see this happen a lot. People are running hard, and then they don't get enough recovery, and then they do the next rep, and they're moving at the same pace or the same speed, and by the time they get to the tail end of the workout, those last couple of reps are trash. They're not getting anything out of them. Like, you're just beating yourself up more. Once you hit that point, you're done. You don't need to do more reps. But you can get more reps in, more time at that stimulus, getting more of that stimulus in if you get the proper amount of rest in between. And that brings us around to the third big mistake that I see a lot of folks make. The third big mistake that I see a lot of folks make, which is they either run too fast or too hard, or they run too slow or too easy. Now, depending on the workout, what the goal of the workout is, that's going to determine that effort level that we're looking for, that intensity level we're looking for during a workout. If it's a hard day where we're trying to run fast, we're trying to push hard, we're working at VO2 max, we're trying to work on that lactate threshold, we're trying to work on that lactate threshold, we're trying to work on the VO2 max, that kind of stuff, we need to work hard enough to get the stimulus, right? And I see a lot of folks not working hard enough to actually hit that VO2 max intensity that we're looking for with the interval training. But I also see a lot of people working too hard on their steady state runs, their lactate threshold runs, whatever you want to call them. If you're trying to improve that lactate threshold, being able to go at higher speeds in relative to the ground, faster paces, without tapping into the anaerobic side as much. What that means is if you're over that threshold, you're actually going to be programming your body to get better at running over that threshold, which means you're not going to be getting better at utilizing fat as that primary fuel source to actually be able to run faster at lower intensities. And being able to run faster at a lower intensity, at 85% of your maximal heart rate is 7-minute pace. Running at 6:30 pace isn't going to get it so you can run for longer at 7-minute pace, which for endurance athletes is what we're normally after. Our top end is not normally our limiting factor for being able to finish in a good time. It's being able to operate at that lower intensity, below that lactate threshold, so we're utilizing fat as our primary fuel source to be able to cover ground faster, right? So if we're working too fast or too hard, we're not going to be getting that. And as endurance athletes, that's normally our number one priority, is that lactate threshold. The other side is we're going too easy. And this is true for, like, if we're in a 5K training block, we're trying to work real hard, real fast. If you're trying to improve your biomechanical efficiency and that neuromuscular fitness, you got to be able to move fast enough to actually stress the central nervous system. So if you're not getting enough rest and then you end up slowing down at the tail end of the workout, or you're just not moving fast enough to stress it because of some other reason, either you're just not working hard enough or environmental conditions don't allow you to move that fast, you're not going to be getting that stimulus that you're looking for. So, and the third aspect of that is on recovery days, right? That recovery is a big thing. Is we got to make sure we're not working too hard on the recovery days. On those recovery days, the goal is to flush nutrients into those beat up tissues so they can recover and get the metabolic waste products out. If we're running too hard, we're just going to beat them up more, right? And it may feel like an easy pace. Notice I said pace, but the intensity is too high, right? And this is why we got to watch our heart rate on our easy days. Keep that heart rate low on your easy days. We want to get it just high enough to flush some blood into those muscles so they're demanding oxygen and demanding nutrients, but not hard enough that we're stressing the structural integrity of the tissue, which is what happens when we run too hard. And notice I said hard here, not fast. Well, the fast can play into it because then you get the eccentric load on it, but you know what I mean. So, 4 key ingredients that go into any workout: volume, pace, intensity, and the speed at which, the biomechanical speed at which we're moving in, right? The 3 big common mistakes we see are we're not warming up or cooling down enough, so we're not getting as much out of our workout as we could. The second one is we're not getting enough rest, either between workouts or in between intervals within a workout. And the third one is we're either going too fast or too hard, or too easy or too slow, depending on the goal of the workout. So, the next time you're lacing up your shoes and you're heading out the door, think to yourself, what is the purpose of this workout? That way you'll know when you've got it and you'll know when you're done. That way you're not just beating yourself up. Till next time, train smart.